It's a new week in the Crew Motorfest, and thus I have a new summit guide for you. This is the Hoonigan This versus That Volume 1 Summit Guide. Let's go! All right, real quick before I get into the video, quick shout out to Simgii. Thank you so much for the help on these races. He helped tremendously with some of the cuts and some of the race paths, so go check out his channel. There's a link in the description down below. Also, if you have a moment, you may want to check out next week's summit events. There is one of the feats that requires a boat for buoy smashing, so you're going to want to grind boats this week. And there is a bullseye, which we haven't had any of in these summits so far, which has the potential to be a half car, half plane, and you're going to need score breaker on both the car and the plane that you use. So keep that in mind. Start grinding those boats and planes. Boats for sure, planes maybe. All right, let's start off with the cars you're going to need for this summit. In the summit bundle, you're going to be getting the Audi TT in Street 2, the BMW M4 in Street 2, and the Evo 6 GSR in Street 2. I have videos on all three of those cars. However, the pro settings for the Audi TT have changed, so make sure you look at the pro settings before you click off this video. The additional vehicles I'm recommending for this guide are the Porsche 911 GT 993, the Porsche Taycan Turbo, the Nissan GTR Haru Edition, or the Nissan GTR Nismo, and then a slalom vehicle of your choice. Just make sure you have score breaker. All right, the keys to this summit are NOS management and shortcuts. There are quite a few races in this summit that are lapped races that don't really have any shortcuts, and so your NOS management becomes a huge thing throughout the race because they are lapped races. So just pay attention to the NOS usage on those, and the shortcuts on the ones that do have shortcuts are extremely useful, including some resets. All right, here are the pro settings. And the first event is called Audi TTRS versus That, obviously using the Audi TT. This race can be a little bit tricky, but since this is a lapped race, you know the drill. Here's my full first lap. Enjoy. All right, next up we have the street versus that, and for this one I'm using the Porsche Taycan. The fastest times on this race were done at the time I recorded this with the 911 GT 993. However, I found it very difficult to drive that car really fast on this course. It requires a tremendous amount of control through the gutters, and I just really didn't have a good time with it. I strongly recommend using the Porsche Taycan on this one. The acceleration allows you some room for error in those corners, and here are the shortcuts you're going to want to know about. At 32%, you'll cut to the left of this checkpoint and up over the hill. You should reset when you get to that checkpoint. Even though I didn't in this clip, it is definitely faster if you can make it up the hill quick. Reset, you're good to go. I probably will go back and do this again. At 41%, I drifted this turn instead of using the gutters or a reset just because the Taycan is horrible on the brakes and it takes forever to slow down, so just drift it and keep on going. At 45%, go directly towards the checkpoint and reset. And then the same thing at the following corner, go directly towards that checkpoint and reset again. At 69%, you'll cut across the grass to the left just before the bridge, and then you're going to do it again after the bridge. And that's pretty much it for this race. All right, moving on. Next up is the BMW M4 versus that, obviously using the BMW M4. This race is all about your lines through these corners. It's a completely closed-in course, so there's no shortcuts. But once again, since it's a lapped race, here is my first full lap. Enjoy. All right, next up is the Mitsubishi Lancer versus that, obviously using the Evo. This is yet another lapped race. So once again, here is my full second lap for your reference. Enjoy. All right, next up is the German Street versus that, and for this one I'm using the 911 GT 993, and this is another lapped race, but keep in mind NOS management on this one is super important. Gutters and your racing lines are also super important for this one, and there are no shortcuts or resets even though this is not on a closed track. So just pay attention to the lines and try to copy as best you can, and obviously go faster than I did. Here is my full second lap for your reference. Enjoy. And the last event is called Japanese Street versus That. And for this one, I used the GTR Haru edition, but if you don't have access to that, since it's a Crew 2 exclusive, you can use the GTR Nismo. This has been in multiple past summits, so you may know the path already, but just in case you need a little refresher, there are a couple of resets in this race, and there are a couple of very annoying jumps that you'll need to take that will save you a lot of time. So pay attention to the reset points and my speed throughout the lap. Here is my first full lap for your reference. Alright, and lastly, let's talk about the feats. My advice for all three of these slaloms is basically the same as it is every week. You need to drive a car that you have score breaker for. If that means a Street 1 car, then do it. You will score much higher with a score breaker set on a Street 1 car than if you just take an Alpha GP car out there with no skilled and no score breaker. In addition to that, make sure that you're maxing out your skilled affix on all of your parts, and don't forget your legend points as well. On slalom number 3, you'll want to go in the opposite direction. You tend to score just a little bit higher than that, but the other two are just pretty normal and straightforward. All right, here are my final scores for the video, but I actually will probably go back and try to improve these as I usually do every single week. I think a 1.3 million score on this week is possible. I think I'm sitting at 1.2 at this point, but yep, I'll be going back to just try to improve every little bit. All right, DM me with any questions that you might have. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope this helps. I will catch you on the next one. Trigger out.